amazing how long we have to fight these fights, isn't it, folks? And yet we're losing them. It's amazing how we're ruled against and lorded over. It's amazing how many representatives so-called lie to us to get elected and then go to Washington and reverse course, isn't it? Then they figured out if they can just raise enough money from the lobbyists, from the U.S. Chamber of Crony Capitalism, run enough ads and lie, enough people aren't paying close attention, that they can just get reelected. So there's this guy, Representative Jeff Denham, and as Jonathan Strong writes at Breitbart.com, the GOP's most outspoken proponent of comprehensive immigration reform let loose in an interview with reporters here, detailing quiet efforts to draft far-reaching legislation, saying House leadership is committed to bringing the hot-button topics on the floor and criticizing Obama for carrying out too many deportations. We are the party of deportations, he asks. Look at this president's numbers. You believe this guy? This is the future of the Republican Party? Then count me out. I don't believe in embracing lawlessness. I don't believe in embracing a post-constitutional quote-unquote reality. The California Republican says he's part of a working group laying the groundwork to bring forward comprehensive immigration reform, and that top-ranking Republicans are supportive of addressing the full gamut of immigration topics in legislation in 2015. Denham said, I think leadership's commitment is not only to bring up immigration reform, but to bring it up in multiple different bills. First of all, does the man know the English language? Multiple different bills? It's either multiple bills or different bills. The question is the timing of that and the sequence of those bills. In other words, how do they fool us, folks? We've got to be able to discuss the dreamers, he says, the 11.5 million that are here today, as well as a guest worker program and the overall discussion of border security. We've had a working group for quite some time on the various pieces of immigration, on doing everything from a comprehensive bill to a step-by-step approach, but finding out who in our conference is actually open to debate and discussion. Gee, where have we heard this before? Now, this is the position, unstated, but burped out by this buffoon. This is now the position of the Republican Party. The revelation is important because shortly after the election, Boehner warned Obama that moving ahead on executive actions called unconstitutional by Republicans, including Denham, would kill all chance of immigration reform. And privately, some Republicans say the remarks were bluster for the camera. And even this week, Boehner announced to members of the House would soon be considering a border security bill, perhaps the first in a series of standalone measures. And you see, that's the point. They want to do 6 or 7 of these, start with a border security bill, say, look, we took care of border security. Why? Because they passed the same law they passed in 2006? And a Republican president refused to enforce it? A Republican president refused to build the fence? Jeez. One GOP aide said senior Republicans are anxious to move forward. But whether fierce opponents, including Representative Steve King, may defeat their efforts is still to be determined. Because you are about to be gravely disappointed by Boehner and the Republicans, who are ruling against you and lording over you, and are really trying to take you for a ride here. This piece on Breitbart.com by Jonathan Strong. Most of the grown-ups around here realize you can't just do nothing. See, the language is a problem for people on Capitol Hill. You can't just do nothing. And, of course, they're grown-ups. So the Republicans talk now like the radical left Democrats. If you disagree with them, you're not a grown-up. If you disagree with them, you're intemperate. If you disagree with them, you're a malcontent. Of course, they have it ass backwards, but there you go. But how do you bring up reform when part of your conference refuses to support anything? The aide asked. That's not true. People want the border secured for several years, and then there can be talk about the next steps. But they won't do it. They just won't do it. Even when they pass laws and say they'll do it, they won't do it. So this guy, this Congressman Jeff Denham, who in 2013, he became the first Republican to co-sponsor a Democratic immigration bill that would give millions of illegal aliens a chance at citizenship, criticized the Department of Homeland Security funding bill passed in the House this week that would reverse Obama's unconstitutional executive action, as well as his 2012 order to grant amnesty to individuals brought illegally to the U.S. as children, which he also had no authority to do. So here we have a Republican from California voting with the Democrats, voting against the Constitution, voting with Obama, And he's telling us that he is one of the kingmakers now, under the Republican leadership, putting together a comprehensive immigration bill, which they'll break up into little pieces, so you won't think it's comprehensive, I guess. So this Denham said, by adding deferred action amendment in here, it goes back to a situation where you've got kids that came here through no fault of their own. I'm sick of hearing this line, kids who came here through no fault of their own. I have a question for you, Mr. Denham, and you're free to call in. If you have young children, even infants, whose parents have committed crimes, and they go to prison, those kids are without parents through no fault of their own. What then, Mr. Denham? Should we change the laws in order to accommodate those children so that their parents don't go to prison? What should we do, Mr. Denham? There's a lot of things that happen in this country to people through no fault of their own, even kids through no fault of their own. This amazes me. Let's just take an issue. Oh, I know I'm not allowed to say this. Let's say that you deport this family that came here 5 years ago with infants back to where they came from, wherever it is. And we're not talking about war-torn countries or political refugees here. We're talking about third world poor countries as an example. I don't understand this argument that these children are here through no fault of their own. Okay, fine. What does that have to do with anything? So they can go back to Honduras. Or they can go back to Saudi Arabia. They can go back to Sweden, if you like. And then if they become adults at some point, they want to come back here, they go through the front door. Their parents can try and come through the front door. You see, the issue, Mr. Denham, is what's best for you and your political career as you pander in your district. The issue as a nation is, how do we improve the country, the culture? One of the things I wrote down yesterday as I watch the change in our culture, the bilingual language now in our country. And I'm not just talking about Latinos. If you look at the importation of Muslims and how society's changing as a result of that, and can't have pork in this place, can't do this in another place, I started to realize not only are we not assimilating immigrants into our culture, we are assimilating into their culture. Let me repeat that. We're not assimilating people into our culture. We're assimilating into their culture. And their culture is substandard compared to our culture, which is exactly why they come here. They want to be in this country, in this culture. Until many of them get here, and we have these ethnic front groups, some of them subsidized by foreign countries, some of them urged on by foreign countries, to try and conquer and devour our culture. That's why I look at guys like Denham, and I find him to be really outrageous. He's the malcontent. He's the miscreant. And so he attacks those of us and our representatives who are actually standing up for the Constitution, the rule of law, Article 1, the powers of Congress, and the notion of the proper role of immigration in a country. So this guy Denham, he said Senate Republicans have confided their concerns with House-passed DHS bill in him, especially given there's no discussion of a comprehensive immigration bill at the moment. So Denham is working it. The House leadership's working it. McConnell's working it. They're all working it. It's just a matter of time. And I want you to remember something else. John Boehner was working with Obama behind the scenes this summer on this massive budget, but also told him, as he was moving on executive amnesty, to go ahead and do it. And the next breath, he's on the House floor slamming him. Now, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't like being deceived. I don't like being lied to by these politicians. 20 years from now, they won't be remembered. But what they've done will be here to stay. What they've done will be here to stay. Obama will be gone. McConnell will be gone. Boehner will be gone. Mr. Denham will be gone. They'll all be gone. But your children and grandchildren will still be here. I don't care what your background is, your pigmentation, your religion. It applies to all of us who are here legally. And most of us who are citizens here legally. So this is problematic. It's got a lot of problems: open borders, open immigration, economic, cultural, national security, law enforcement. Look, there's a reason why there are nation states. It used to be the left, the hard left, the communists, who would say there's no such thing as national borders, national boundaries. Our movement is an international movement. Our goal is to conquer the world, to spread the cause from one end of the world to the next. And the position of the United States and right-thinking people in countries was, no, we are a nation state. We have real borders, and why we support open trade, why we support international activity, we support all those things. We are not isolationists. We're not xenophobic. But we do believe in a nation state called the United States, and it's such a special place. Yes, of course we have to secure our border. And of course we have to enrich our culture. You don't even hear Republicans talking like this anymore. You don't even hear hosts and guest commentators on our favorite cable network talking like this anymore. It's become passé to talk about America's needs. It's become passé. And worse, you're ridiculed to talk about American society, American culture, American sovereignty. And yet this used to be a commonplace and common belief, but not anymore. Both political parties, one in your face and the other through devious tactics, have the same agenda. Big business, which is not about business, it's about subsidies and government, in bed with big labor. Big labor used to reject this. Used to reject this. Cesar Chavez, as I've explained time and again, used to reject this. Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King's lieutenant, rejected this. Walter Mondale rejected this because they saw this as an attack on the American worker, including blacks and Latinos, especially blacks and Latinos. Not anymore.